I think you just have to Jim Harbaugh in his second year. They've got a clear identity and program established there. They were pretty good last year. I think we've seen in the limited exposure this year that Justin Herbert has risen to the occasion. To beat Kansas City. I think they had 2 scoring drives in the final 5 minutes against Denver to win that game. So I think all the early indicators are positive for them.
It's time for the Sportsnaut interview. Conversations with newsmakers and record breakers from the NFL, Major League Baseball, and more. We bring the world of sports to you from the editors at Sportsnaut.com. And now, today's Sportsnaut interview.
Welcome to the Sportsnaut interview. I am your host, Evan Groat, and week 3 of the NFL season brought plenty of excitement, but we do look ahead now to week 4. Our guest here on the show this week is Mike Sando, who covers the NFL for The Athletic, and we're happy to have you here, Mike. And what the topic of our discussion here today is, we are going to be sizing up the 6 remaining 3-0 teams in the NFL. I know you wrote a story on it this week. We're happy to have you joining us today.
Good to be here, Evan. Let's go run through them.
Yeah, absolutely. I got to say, I thought there was going to be 7 teams on this list. The Packers, they laid an egg against the Browns, so we'll have to keep it to 6 here. But I want to start with the reigning Super Bowl champions, the Philadelphia Eagles. You point out a couple of things in your story that maybe should be a cause of concern for Eagles fans. You point out Saquon Barkley's yards per carry average of 3.3. Of course, we know teams are stacking the box to try to slow him down because he had such a dominant season last year, and he's such a big part of that offense. You also point out the defense is one of the youngest in the NFL, and you also point out that they don't have a receiver who ranks higher than 45 in receiving. Yeah. So those are definitely causes for concern. Also one of the things that I was looking at when I look at the games that they have won, they've all come in 1-score games as well. So that could be a good thing or maybe a bad thing, depending how you look at it. But, you look at the way they're winning these games. Do you think it's a sustainable recipe, or do you think they could be in store for a regression?
They could be in store for regression, but I think they're a good team. We would all agree that, if you're going to name your 6 teams that you think could win the Super Bowl and you had to bet money on it, they'd be one of them.
Yeah.
So we know there's a lot of good there. And so there's 2 ways to look at it. You could say, hey, this isn't sustainable and it's going to fall off. But you can also say, you know what? They started 2-2 last year and they got better. So now if they're 3-1 or 4-0 to start the season, that's a big advantage because you figure they might improve again over the course of the year. They have a new offensive coordinator who's probably finding his way. Each team is different. And so with that very young defense, maybe they need some time to be at their absolute best over the course of a year. So if you can avoid like where Kansas City is at, being 1-2, you have a big leg up. And I think that's what we saw the Chiefs do last year. They banked the wins early too, and sort of built to playing their best ball late in the year.
Yeah, it's a long season for sure. So we'll see how that plays out. Now, the other team, the Buffalo Bills, I want to discuss with you. They got the signature win in week 1. We know the come from behind win against the Ravens. But other than that, they've got a couple ho-hum wins. The Jets and the Dolphins, not really impressive when you look at what those 2 teams have done this season. And, I look at the remaining schedule for Buffalo, and besides Kansas City and I believe it's Tampa Bay in November, and then Philly late in December, I don't see many more obstacles for Buffalo. Now, we know they're a great team. We know that, but I don't know if we're going to find out truly how great they are until playoffs. What's your take on that?
I agree. I think they just want to get the number 1 seed to give themselves the best chance, to play those games at home, and whatever edge that brings, probably, not as big as it used to be in the league, but still an edge, especially in Buffalo. Yep. I think it's really great for them to beat the Ravens early. You can only play the games on your schedule. So when you get those big games like Buffalo, they're down 15 points, in the fourth quarter and win the game. That's great for them. Don't forget they play Cincinnati in week 14. I don't know if Joe Burrow is going to be playing, but if he is, that changes the complexion of that game as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, good point there. We'll see if Burrow makes it back. One of the teams that Buffalo might have to deal with when the playoffs do arrive here is the Los Angeles Chargers. And they've been phenomenal, playing as good as anyone right now. They got a top 5 defense. They've got an offense in the top 10. They've got Justin Herbert playing at an MVP level early in the season. I will add that, but he's playing really well. And they got one of the top coaches in the league right now. Do you think the Chargers are one of, if not the most complete team right now that we're seeing in the NFL?
I think that's fair to say. I do. I think we'll see they've been passing the ball a lot. So we'll
Yeah.
see over the course of the year, what their, the run game component that they always like to have. We'll see what that looks like over the course of the year. But I think you just have to Jim Harbaugh in his second year. They've got a clear identity and program established there. They were pretty good last year. I think we've seen in the limited exposure this year that Justin Herbert has risen to the occasion, to beat Kansas City. I think they had 2 scoring drives in the final 5 minutes against Denver to win that game. So I think all the early indicators are positive for them.
Do you expect, you mentioned, passing the ball a bit more. I think they're taking the reins off of Justin Herbert. I agree with you there. And I think everyone can see that. And we know that's a major change in philosophy from what, Greg Roman likes to do. He wants to run the football. They just had the injury to Najee Harris. He's out for the season with the Achilles. Do you think that they will continue to, ride the back of Justin Herbert, and we could see that even maybe an uptick in passing attempts?
Well, the attempts could go up. Their attempts aren't super high. I think they're in the 31 attempts per game, right around there. It's not off the charts, but what they've been doing is on the early first half script, on first and second down early in the game, they've been 75% pass. League average is closer to 52%. So that's big. I think the next team is 65%. So I don't think they're going to go higher than that. I think they're more likely to probably work in some more games where they're a little bit more balanced early, depending on the opponent. But they've got a quarterback that they believe in, and I think he's got a little bit better weaponry around him.
Yeah, absolutely. I do think I looked it up. I think that Herbert is 7th in attempts right now. So as you mentioned, around that 31. Higher. Yeah. Now, one of the biggest surprises, I think, at least for me anyways, at 3-0 is the Indianapolis Colts. I didn't see that one coming. Daniel Jones rejuvenated in Indy. Now their schedule does get a little bit tougher here over the next 4 weeks. They have games against the Cardinals, the Rams, and the Chargers, just to name a few. So do you think that, this is a team that we should be taking more serious, or more of a pretender?
No, I do. They were 8-9 last year with a starting quarterback who completed 47.7% of his passes. So they added Tyler Warren. They spent a little bit of money in free agency on the back end of their defense. So I think that they're a competent team. Now, Daniel Jones does, risk his body a little bit. That's a little bit of a concern for me, not to the extent of an Anthony Richardson, but he does run, he does take some hits. And so he's got to do it over the course of a 17-game season. But I like where he's at mentally. I don't think he's playing just off the charts, incredible, unsustainable ball. He still misses some throws. He's not as consistently accurate as the top quarterbacks, but it's still been good enough for them against Miami, Denver, and Tennessee. Granted, 2, not very good teams there. They're going to play the Rams this week, and I think that's a great sort of litmus test. Okay, are you in that game to the end, or do we see a little bit of a difference in class?
Staying with the Colts and Daniel Jones, what's your thoughts and your opinion on quarterbacks who, for whatever the reason may be, just couldn't make it work in their first team or the team they were drafted by? I think about Baker Mayfield. I think he's a good example of this. We're seeing it now with Daniel Jones. There's a number of examples we could give where it just didn't work out. Yes. It just doesn't work out. And then they go to a new team, and you often hear about just a change of scenery or a new environment really makes a big difference. We'll just like some of your thoughts on that.
Yeah. Maturity and a change in expectations too. So one thing, I think New York and New Jersey it is, but New York market is its own animal. I think it chews you up and spits you out. It takes a special type of person to be able to weather that. So an Eli Manning, he struggled early in his career. He wasn't seen as a top quarterback for a few years. But he's Eli Manning. The stuff just sort of rolls off his back. I think guys like Daniel Jones, Sam Darnold can get swallowed up in the expectations of that market when you're on bad teams. Really hard to get going. So Baker Mayfield, I think, had an injury with Cleveland that really played into his situation, and then probably some immaturity. I think he's matured and become, a better version of himself as he's gotten older and taken some lumps, and he's more on track, I think. So I do think changing it up, being in better situations, sometimes with less expected of you, more support around you. I mean, Indy's a perfect place for Daniel Jones. You couldn't get more far removed from New York in terms of the type of city and type of media market and that sort of a thing. So good for him. It's working well.
Yeah, and it's a very winnable division as well. So good to see Daniel Jones finally reaching some of his potential here. Now, we talked about Buffalo maybe benefiting from an easier schedule, but nobody has an easier schedule in the NFL this year based on strength of schedule than the 49ers, and they've taken full advantage of that so far with 3 wins. Now, they've been ravished with injuries, and I think they're going to need that easy schedule to help keep this thing going. Now, the NFC West, you look at it right now, it looks like it's going to be one of the more competitive divisions in the NFL, and the 49ers are at the top of that division right now. It looks like they're going to get Brock Purdy back, but at the end of the season, do you anticipate that the 49ers will still be at the top?
I kind of don't, because I think the attrition on the injury front, already losing Bosa.
Yep.
They'll get George Kittle back, but how long is Christian McCaffrey going to go? We already have an early injury for Purdy. Is he going to be battling something all year that's not quite right? I think they're a 3-0 team that's probably going to be 4-2 after their next 3. They play home Jacksonville, at the Rams, at the Bucks. They've won 2 games this year where they scored 17 and 16 points.
Yeah.
So good job for them on their defense. But, they did it against Kyler Murray, who I think has some limitations, and Seattle was super limited in their first game, which is the way they played the game. So I think it's going to be a little bit of a tougher road for them. They'll be competitive. They have a chance to win the division, but I'm not putting a lot of money on it.
Mm-hmm. And then finally, I think the team that's brought the most excitement to the league so far, the 3-0 Buccaneers, the Cardiac Kids down there in Tampa Bay, they have 3 wins, as I mentioned, by a combined 6 points. They are finding ways to get it done in clutch moments. It's fun to watch. Baker Mayfield, how could you not cheer for him? He plays with that chip on his shoulder. I will say that division is a bit of a joke, so I don't think they'll have any problem. I mean, I have to be honest. Yeah. I don't think they're going to have any problem winning that division. But do you think the Bucs are a serious Super Bowl contender?
Not yet. I'm not willing to say that. I have felt like, that top tier of teams there, of whatever it is, Green Bay, Detroit, Philadelphia, probably. Then I think Tampa Bay and the NFC is kind of in its own tier. I think that they are a team that's going to be there. They're going to be in the playoffs. I think they're good. They could win a playoff game, but I don't know that I see them necessarily winning that second playoff game, or winning the championship game. I think they're just sort of a high floor team that maybe isn't quite, for whatever reason, where some of those other teams are going to be.
Well said. And, I'll let you run on this last one. I saw the news that Jackson Dart is going to get the start, it looks like, for the Giants. I know you do your quarterback tier rankings each summer, so I thought you might have some thoughts on this quarterback. Any opinion on Dart, throwing a young quarterback in there, a team that's not real great around him? Does this buy Daboll some time?
I mean, probably. I don't know if he was going to be fired next week, but I think Daboll has 2 things. Like, a head coach has a couple things you can do to sort of change the narrative, change the subject, maybe buy some time. You can give up the play calling duties. That's what they did in Tennessee. You can change the quarterback. Those are a couple things you can do, or you can fire some assistant coach, right? Yeah. Atlanta's already done that. I don't know what happened there with Ike Hilliard, but those are sort of the things you can do. I think that, Russell Wilson in quarterback tiers was right at the bottom of the starting quarterbacks, and sort of on that line of whether you are even a starter anymore. So that's been answered. He is not a starter anymore. Jackson Dart, it was not in the quarterback tiers survey of 50 coaches and executives because he's a rookie. But that being said, I do know a couple of people that saw him over the summer that weren't necessarily super high on him coming out, but said, wow, you can see that there's something there. And sometimes you just don't have to overthink it. You can just watch him throw the ball. He looks pretty good. So I don't think you're going to ruin a quarterback necessarily by putting him in right now. Now, how you handle him going forward, if it gets tough for him, if he's getting beat up too much, you could have decisions to make. But I don't have a problem with them going to him right now, the way Russell Wilson's been playing, and they're 0-3.
Yeah, absolutely. Time to shake it up in New York, that's for sure. Mike Sando from The Athletic, Hall of Fame voter, AP voter. He does it all. Follow his work on The Athletic. He's got the Sando Pick 6 article that's out there right now. I encourage you to head over there and read it. I enjoyed it myself. Michael, thank you so much for the time and all your great insight today.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Evan.